Wake up and smell the coffee, Mr. LaRusso.
Extreme situations require extreme measures.
Yes, probably about it. Yo guys, back to Cobra Kai Karate. Welcome back to a brand new video, and guys, today we have a very special video. My first kind of pop culture video in the, I guess, the new journey. I've already made a couple, but this is my first one that is after the show's over. Cobra Kai's ended, and here we are. I got the new intro if you guys didn't see it. If anyone was confused about me doing this, yeah, I am switching from just a primary Cobra Kai channel to a channel that talks about everything. I talked about in my last video, and I put a poll up for what you guys want to watch. My first video outside of it, my first a real one, not just teasing it, and you guys said ranking all MCU movies, all 35, and you guys voted that by a lot. So yeah, don't worry guys, more Cobra Kai videos will come, just not now. I think I'll do a Sam video next, then I'll do another one of these kind of videos. But yeah, this is gonna be a long video. If you guys know, I love MCU. I've been watching ever since I was a kid. I've kind of lost interest in more of Phase 5 and the end of Phase 4, you could say. And there was a couple movies that I did not watch, so I kind of caught up on some of those. But I'm gonna be honest, some of the movies in Phase 5 I only watched, like, I guess, not the whole thing. I know snippets of it, and so some of them might be ranked a little incorrectly because I have watched all of them. I know what it basically happens, but I guess what I'm trying to say is when I was actually watching, I got so bored I was barely paying attention, or maybe I stopped watching at the end, or I kind of stopped in the middle. So not every single one is going to be completely talked about, but at least 30 to 29 of these I've watched completely, and I love them, or I've seen them at least to the complete product. So I just want to make that clarification, and we're going to get right into this, ranking all 35 MC movies. And yes, guys, I actually did just watch the Captain America movie, and it was something. I was thinking about doing a review for it, but it's a little too late for that, and I think most people concur with what I was going to say. So let's get right into this, starting off at 35, the worst MCU movie of all time. Now, when I think of the worst, a couple come to mind, but this one separates itself from every single one for me personally. And the worst MCU movie for me, I'm going for Love and Thunder. And like I said, it separates its part for a lot for me personally. Just to the basics, I think it's pretty self-explanatory why this movie is bad. And I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. But why this separates it for me is because this is the one I was actually super excited for. Not only was it another Thor movie, the first one in 5 years. It was gonna have Gore, the villain, which was played by Christian Bale, and he is one of my favorite actors of all time. And that character is a very dark villain about his daughter being killed by the gods, and he goes to kill the gods, kind of like Kratos. He's a really dark villain, and I think he would have been very good in this movie. And I really thought they were going to try to bring it back to serious Thor, not just goofy Thor. It'd be still goofy Thor, more of like him in Ragnarok, or it was kind of balanced it a bit. So I was very excited, and it was a hot, nasty mess. This movie had absolutely zero direction. It's all over the place. The plot holes are all over the place. The humor is all over the place. They have a serious plot, but the way they film it, it's just not emotionally set up, and it's followed by a forced joke, like Sarah Jane coming in, and sorry, Jane Foster, not Sarah Jane, but she comes in, and we get revealed that she has this cancer, and somehow that makes her worthy to hold the hammer, and sometimes it makes her have a power. I don't really remember how they even explain that. And also Thor hammers just shatters and it just regrows. I'm pretty sure in Infinity War there's a whole thing, or a whole journey where they get a whole new hammer just because his hammer broke. So what the hell was that for? But whatever. But she says she has cancer, and then there's just no emotional weight. There's no scenes of her actually feeling emotional depth. It's just her goofing off and just acting normal, charismatic. And the whole movie, first off, the visual's disgusting. It looks like unicorn vomit. It's just so nasty. Like, I can't. This movie gives me like a migraine. I hate how it looks. The humor is awful. The action's not good. And then the Gore villain is so badly placed inside all this. It just makes it completely awful. And even the actors are saying this movie feels like it was written by a 7-year-old. So clearly, everyone hates this movie. Everyone knows it was awful. It is one of the most worst movies I've ever seen. And it's not one of those good kind of bad movies. It's one of those bad movies where it's just awful and putrid. And this belongs to the worst. It might not be the worst movie because there is some qualities. I do think that the Thor was a little charismatic. I mean, how could he not be? But just for me personally, since I was super excited for this, and Thor is one of my favorite characters, at least when he actually was more than just a joke. it really sucked to see this, and especially what they did with gore and what just the missed opportunity of this movie. It was awful. All right, coming at 34 is a movie I watched one time, and it was when it first came out years ago, and I literally barely remember what happened, so that kind of is testimony to why it's low. And this is going to internals. From what I can remember, it's just like these aliens that were around for 1,000 years to protect something, which I don't know why they were not around when Age of Ultron or when, Thanos came down to wipe half the universe, but I'm sure they explained that in 1 second in dialogue that I completely forgot about. But this movie is just like bland chips on a market. It's such a boring superhero movie. None of the actors had chemistry. Nothing feels, unique. There's no unique characters. Every main character feels like a side character in a bigger story. And the story overall is just boring from what I remember. There was not one memorable fight. I did think the visuals were cool at time. Going back, the CGI in Love and Thunder were awful. I got to get back to that. But yeah, this movie is just so boring, and I don't remember what really happened. And, it's kind of like for The Dark World, where it was so boring you barely remember. But at least For the Dark World actually had some cool action and cool characters, which we'll talk about later. This one did not have that. So I can't talk about this too much because I barely remember. But all I remember is it was just boring, and boring movies are honestly, I think, worse than bad movies. All right, coming at 33 is the one I just saw, I guess you could say. I barely watched it, but this is going to The Marvels. This movie was like, it was trying to do so much, and it tried to bring all these characters together, but all of them felt forced. The acting was bad. The dialogue felt so unnatural. The story I barely remember. And it, like the first Captain Marvel was actually somewhat interesting because the characters felt somewhat reasonable. They felt like there's actually a story building up. This one felt like it was like a story winding down. Like it was not fun at all. The only thing I can even say about this movie is Miss Marvel, I think her name is, or whatever that girl is. I think she actually was the only one who actually was somewhat putting on a performance and actually was somewhat, she had some charisma to her role, which actually was something interesting, which was actually the only thing good about her own show on Disney. So that was the only redeeming part, which is why I have it a little high, because I did think there were some funny scenes. That's really all I remember. Everything else was just it felt like a movie full of filler, just like Internals. And I feel like it was a big swing and a huge miss for me. And I can't say too much about it because I was really watching this on the side because I just lost interest like the first 10 minutes. All right, going to number 32. This was the OG worst MCU movie of all time. This is For the Dark World. This was the worst for a long time until we got to the newer stuff. And yeah, this movie is just, it's all over the place. It tries to do so many different tones. The villains, these like gnomes, are so unforgettable. They try to mash in this humor with very serious stuff. They're not really deciding what they want to do. And overall, the movie pacing is just so slow. And it's not even one where it's like a slow character study. Characters are going nowhere. There's no arcs. There's nothing going on. It's just these revolting around these villains that are not interesting, no one cares about. And it's just such a boring movie. Like I said, the fight scenes are cool. I think it still holds that 4-1 vibe, like that original Asgard. Now whatever was in Ragnarok or Love and Thunder. Well, I guess Love and Thunder really wasn't Asgard, but it just wasn't really good. It just was boring. And like I said before, in entertainment, you go for entertainment. And boring movies are worse than bad ones, because at least bad ones can somewhat be entertaining. Boring is just nothing. So yeah, this one is just a boring movie. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's awful, but it's just it's a lot more closer to awful than it is to all right. So yeah. All right, coming at 31 is Ant-Man Quantumanium. I don't think I said that word right, but when I watched this, I literally felt like I was like in a fever dream. It was one of the most weirdest things I ever seen. I thought Kang the Conqueror could have been a cool villain, and I think they were setting him up to be something cool. But everything outside of that, like the goofiness and the CGI and the dialogue and some of the most cringiest things I ever seen on my screen, it literally just made me want to throw my laptop out the window. And there isn't that much redeeming qualities to make up for that, because the fighting's not that interesting. The Quantumanium honestly seems a lot more boring than I remember. And it's just like, the movie's all over the place with Kang and everything. And like I said, this is the one that I didn't fully pay attention to, so I can't say everything, and I can't really go in depth about this. I just remember this feeling like a huge headache, a lot like For Love and Thunder. It is a bit higher because that one did it a lot worse, and the pain and the misery as I was feeling watching For Love and Thunder was a lot more. It was a lot harder than this one, but yeah, it just really wasn't there. I really didn't find this interesting. It was just all over the place. So let's say about that. All right, and here we are, 30, and here it is, Captain America and the Brave New World. Okay, I've been saying from the start I hate the idea of Falcon being Captain America, because I know it's kind of accurate, but I don't care. The comic books are ass too, because I don't like the idea of him, like, I feel like Captain America's legacy in a film and a franchise, not comic books and 5 billion pages and universes. No, this is a film and a franchise of an actor who is known. Chris Evans is known as Captain America. That's his legacy. You ended perfectly. Let it rest. Let it be. John Lennon, or who sang that? John McCarthy? One of the Beatles guys, Let It Be. That's what that should have been. Because, dude, whenever you look at Falcon, no matter how good this movie was or how bad it was, he will never be Captain America. And he shouldn't be. And he shouldn't try to hold that legacy. He should create his own legacy, because I actually like the Falcon character. And that was actually the only reason why this movie is high, because I think he actually is an interesting character with interesting depth and actually acted very well. The problem with this movie is it feels like it's just such a drag about this government bullcrap that was so uninteresting, and it's built up to be a superhero movie with this Red Hulk and all the stuff building up, the tension, but it never gets resolved. There's no superhero in this. At the end of the movie, he doesn't even fight him, he just calms him down. I'm like, what the frick is this? And it's like, oh, you don't have to be a superhero to be a superhero. I'm like, okay, then I'm not gonna watch a superhero movie, dumbass. Look, I don't like this. It builds itself up to be something, and then the climax is it not being that. So that's pretty much it. And they completely swinged out on the Red Hulk. It could have been a great. I think it was in it for like 2 minutes, dude. I just hated this. The action was underwhelming. The story was underwhelming. And overall, I'm still disappointed by them trying to push this narrative of him being Captain America just to get people in the theater because it looks better on a title. Alright, 29 might come to a shock to you guys, because this is actually a well-respected Marvel movie, and I actually don't think it's a bad movie at all. I would actually go as far as say it's a good movie, but it goes back to what I was saying. It is so boring that, like, it might be one of the most boringest one on here, but at least this might be the most boring MCU movie, more than Eternals, but this one actually was good story, so I put it up higher, and good acting, obviously. I'm going to the original Doctor Strange. Okay, look, the story was good. I thought the visuals were amazing, but dude, something about it just was so cliche to me, and it just seemed such a drag. And usually I like long movies that, you know, pacing slow, you spend time on the characters, and that's what it was doing. But something about this one just did not click. The characters were not that interesting. Something was not that, I don't know, I can't say what it was. It just wasn't there for me. Whenever I watch this movie, I swear I get a physical reaction where I just want to turn it off because it's just so boring to me. That's really all I have to say. And I guess I can't really give it an analyst on that. It's just how I feel. Like I said, that's my personal list. But this movie was a solid movie. I thought the acting was done well. I thought the characters were pretty cool, even though I didn't find them interesting. But yeah, it's just such a drag. So that's why I have it at 29. Our 28 is, I'm going Black Widow. Yeah, another one where it's all over the place. I really liked the idea of this movie and what they attempted to do, and somewhat to a degree succeeded with. And that was like this childhood trauma coming together, what a family is, all this stuff. And Black Widow's history and who she is and her as a character overall has always been super interesting to me. So I was very excited for this, but the film has so many reshoots and you can just see it. And whenever a film has a lot of reshoots, or you could just tell they knew what they're doing is wrong, I can see it such clear as day, and I wish I couldn't, because it just irritates me and takes me out of the story. That's another thing, back to the Captain America one, or Captain America, but this one is so self-evident it's not even funny. The villain is cool, but they don't spend enough time building on him, and it feels like the fight, the climax just gets skipped to. It feels like you skipped a scene to get there. And the CGI and the acting at the end was one of the worst I ever seen in my life. It's enough to make me just completely disregard everything I just said. That's how bad it was. So yeah, this movie, I feel like it had good potential and it did some of that, but the battle weights are good for this one, so that's why I have it at 28. Coming on number 27 is another Doctor Strange movie, Doctor Strange. Yeah, Doctor Strange. Yeah, this one was Multiverse of Madness. This one was, I was super excited for this, like a horror Doctor Strange Marvel movie with evil zombies and exploring a dark world. Oh hell yeah, sign me up. Put my name, my middle name, and you can even put in the right grammar too, and a period while you're at it. Well, that is right grammar. I was excited for this, and I went into it and I was somewhat captivated by the story, but the whole movie I'm waiting for something to happen. And then when we get to one thing, which is just the biggest problem I have with this, it was the scene where you bring Professor X in, right? It's not the actual Professor X, okay, but you bring him in, the same actor, a legend, and X-Men is one of my favorite film franchises of all time, and how they ended Professor X's character in Logan was so beautiful. It's enough to make a grown man cry. It was perfect, and it was a 20-year, 17-year story that got ended, and now you bring him back. I know all people are going to freak out, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. It's not the same one. I don't care. You bring the actor back, you bring the icon back, and you snap his neck for this villain who shouldn't even be a villain. It's such a boring villain, because yeah, she went through a lot of pain, but she's just not that interesting as a villain. She is not that intimidating as a villain either, and I felt like her being a villain was kind of forced by the story, and it didn't feel natural. Because like all the pain she was going through, it felt like it was growing her to be something better, and then it just turned her bad out of nowhere. So I don't know. And I know people are gonna say, "Oh, it's not the Professor X, it's from the original, so why do you care?" You tell me. Let me tell you. Let's say Robert Downey Jr., right? Let's say they bring him back as Iron Man, but it's a alternative version, right? In like 5 years, and he comes there, and this new villain who's supposed to be cool, is not that cool overall, just snaps his neck just to make her look cooler, I guess, and then they just go to the next scene like nothing happened. I'm sure you guys would feel like, oh, what if it was Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but it wasn't the actual Spider-Man in the universe? It doesn't matter. It's disrespectful to the fans, and the fact they did that just to put him in the trailer to get people into that seat made me embarrassed to even be in that scene and bought a ticket. So yeah, another one that I think is just very bad all over the place, and CGI is not that good, the story writing is not that good, acting is not that good. But I do think some of the zombie stuff was pretty cool. That was the only thing I liked about this, and the theme of it actually was somewhat interesting. But outside of that, it's pretty bad. Alright, coming at 26, I'm going Captain Marvel. I know a lot of people are expecting this to be a little lower. I don't think it was that bad of a movie. Now, it was overlapping with the goofiness and the seriousness a little too much to me. I think the whole alien cat, and that's how Nick Fury lost his eye, was so stupid, and it makes that mystery a lot less cooler. But I felt like the movie was a solid movie. It had a nice little arc. It had nice story writing. It wasn't anything special. It was just a small, somewhat good movie. It didn't try to be too much, and I think it just succeeded, and I think it found the right audience too. It made $1 billion at the box office, which is funny because the second one made, like, it was a huge bomb at the box office, one of the biggest in MCU history. So I just think it was just all right. It's not nothing great, and I understand the criticisms, which is why I have it a little lower. Some of the side characters were kind of boring and a little over the top also, but I do think overall it was just a solid story, and I don't hate it too much as other people do. I think a lot of people hate it because of the actress, which is perfectly reasonable, but I think, for me, I really do separate that stuff. So yeah, I think it was just an alright movie. Not gonna put up too much higher than this though. Alright, 25, I'm going Ant-Man and the Wasp. Some people love this, some people hate it, and I'm kind of in between, because I think it's an alright movie. It does what, you expect, but, I don't know. Something about it is just, it's just another superhero movie to me, and there's nothing really unique or something that stands out from the other. It doesn't do anything necessarily bad. It's just, I feel like this movie was just, a small little setup to Endgame, and that's really all it was. So I liked it, but I also wouldn't say I loved it. So it's a little bit lower on the list, but I would not put this in the same conversation as the one we were talking about 5-6 movies ago. Alright, number 24, I'm going one of the most, I would say, stressful ones and frustrating movies in the MCU, and one that's very split, and it's Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 2. Oh, dude, this movie, like, it's so hard for me because at times I think it's so good. The whole, I forgot the blue man's name. The Woodley. I don't remember his name, but you guys know the blue guy. You guys are gonna correct me in the comments. I'm looking like an idiot, but you know what? I already looked like an idiot before. We can't really change that. But his whole stuff with Rocket and the emotional scenes and his passing. Yondu. Isn't he freaking Yondu? Yeah. Okay. Alright, but that whole stuff I thought was just beautiful, and I thought the acting was very well done. I thought the fight scenes are really well done. But the goofiness and humor, it overlaps dramatically way too much. Freaking diabolically way too much. It was way too much. And the ego villain, his dad, is one of the worst. I would go as far as say one of the worst villains I ever seen on live action in my ever life. In my ever life. That's not a freaking word, but it's coming from the heart. All right, that was awful. Like, I hated it with a passion. And me thinking about it right now is actually giving me mad. Like, my blood pressure is going up. So, dude, like, I don't even want to talk about why I hate him so much. It's just like he's so goofy, so over the top, and he has such a serious thing that impacts a character that I care about, but they try to make him such a goofball. It freaking. All right, next movie. All right, 23. I'm going Iron Man 3. Now, this movie I'm split on. Like, I actually think there's some great stuff with this. The dark tone it holds from the beginning into the middle is so good, of Tony Stark feeling like this PTSD almost from what happened in the Avengers, and something that Marvel never really explored in too much depth like they did later on. Like, I really think they should have done that more in Infinity War. Back in, like, they just get right in. I mean, Endgame. Sorry, they just get right into the portal and just go onto a mission. And it's like, where's like the emotional weight? There was a little bit of Widow and Tony, but like it didn't really hold that much depth. But Iron Man 3, it really held a lot for most of the movie. And the whole stuff with the kid I thought was interesting, but the movie just takes way too much turns around the end. First off, you set up this villain, the Taskmaster or whatever the hell his name was, and he actually was an interesting villain, but then he just is con man the whole time. And now it's like this guy, dude, Tony turned down, and now he's a fire torch dude. I'm like, what the hell? Look, they completely butchered this, because it was such a good movie from the beginning and the middle, but they just completely ruined it at the end. I hated the ending. That's why it's lower. So, yeah. All right, number 22, I'm going Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Now, this movie is a little hard for me to rank because I can't really rank it as like an entertainment movie, because at the end of the day, I feel like this movie was more of a tribute, and obviously they had a story in mind for Black Panther, but the actor passed away. And I feel like the movie did a very well job as a tribute. I thought it was a very emotional movie, but this movie just felt like it didn't have a direction. It didn't really have a purpose as a movie overall besides a tribute. And I feel like the plot was a little all over the place. They really didn't feel like there was a main character, or at least one that was interesting enough to be a main character. I will say that the villain was very good. I did think that the action was solid. I think the ending was very good. And obviously, it's just a beautiful movie. The cinematography and the tributeness to Chad was just amazing. But as a Marvel movie, I can't really rank it that much higher, because at the end of the day, I have to rank it as a movie, not just a nice little send-off. And obviously, I can't even hate them for it, because how they were able to describe everything. Because obviously, you look at the story, like, let's say like the actor did not die, I'd be like so mad, like, oh my gosh, what, Black Panther just dies and they don't even show it, like, what the frick? Obviously, that is still true with the movie. It doesn't look, that's not good for the movie, but there's a tragedy, so you had to hold off on that stuff, and you kind of get taken out of the movie world, which kind of makes it hold it back as a movie. But as actual project, I respect this a lot. I don't know if that made sense, but yeah. Next one. All right, coming in number 21, I have the original Thor from 2011, and I think this movie actually was a very solid movie. It had a very good tone. I loved the beginning of the Asgard vibes and the whole thing. I thought it was just very well done. But when it gets to Earth, I feel like the movie just takes a huge tone shift from the dialogue, and obviously they're in a different like world, but as a movie, it just feels like it kind of just feels split up. And then in the third act, it's kind of split up too. But with that being said, I feel like every split part feels good. The Asgard, the Earth stuff of him and Jane, and the whole ending with the robots and with Loki. I feel like all individually were good, but as a complete movie, it just feels a little it feels a little unfocused, and that's why it's a little bit lower. But overall, I thought the movie was solid. But it's just not one I really rewatched that much, because it really feels like whenever I watch it, I'm just going to get frustrated by the fact that it feels like so many different things. And whenever I get invested in the first act, it goes to the second. Then I get invested in the second act, and I feel like it shifts to the third. And it's just like, it's doing too much. But overall, I thought it was a solid movie. A nice, simple superhero movie that was good. On to our top 20. I'm going Ant-Man. Love this movie. I thought it was done very well. The comedy, the action, the actual story, the emotional way, I thought it was all done well. The only issue I have with it is that it feels like the movie, there's just no cinematic. There's nothing cinematic about it. It feels, a lot of the stuff feels cliche. A lot of the villains feel cliche. The camera work and the cinematography, the editing, everything just feels like a generic superhero movie, which gets a little boring at times, which is why it's a little bit lower. But and then actually just what they actually did with the characters and the fighting and the comedy, I thought it was very well done. And I do think that the CGI and how they animated small Ant-Man was very good. But like, this movie just feels like, it feels a little too mainstreamy. I don't know if that makes sense. It's a word I use a lot that literally makes no sense when I think about it, but it makes sense to me. It just feels a little too clean. It doesn't really feel like an actual individual thing. It just feels way too much like, hey guys, a superhero movie, yeah. Which is like, I want something more when I watch a superhero movie. I want something individual that separates it, which is why it's a little lower, but still a great movie. Alright, coming at 19, I have The Incredible Hulk. Now, I actually used to not like this movie, but with Hulk turning more into a joke, I've come to respect this a lot more. Now, the acting's not that great. The story is a little all over the place, but the Hulk scenes are one of my favorite. You guys know me, I love the original Hulk, of him being a rage monster. I don't think he necessarily needs to be that all the time. There can be more depth to what that was, which is what we kind of saw in Age of Ultron, which I really wish they would have kept doing that before he just goes off in a freaking plane or a freaking whatever the hell, a ship, and he just, turns into a joke. But to this, I think he really was awesome. The fight scenes are awesome, the visuals are awesome, and that's why it's higher. I'm gonna be honest, it's literally just because of the action. I love it. That's why it's higher. And sometimes I get a little greedy and I pick the action over story. Sue me. Alright, number 18, I'm going Avengers Age of Ultron. Because this was the first movie I ever got so hyped for. I remember I was around 8 years old, and I memorized the trailer. These strings upon me. Okay, I don't even do it now, but I memorized it. I watched it multiple times. Went through opening day. I had my Hulk glove, shield. A guy was making fun of me, so I never went to the theater like that again. But overall, it was a great experience, and I remember it, and it was awesome. And the movie has great stuff. Ultron's a great villain. Has some of the best action. But it feels like it's doing way too much. The emotional stuff they're trying to capture, the action, the villain, and just trying to be cinematic. They notch it up way too much, and at that point, I feel like less is more at this point. If they would have just done what they did, but made it more simple and a more fluent story, like the first Avengers, this would be top 10. But it's just so frustrating when they try to play so many different cards at once. Overall, I thought it was a very good movie. Number 17, we're going Iron Man 2. Now, I understand the critics for this one. It starts off good, but dude, they do way too much in the middle end, where it feels like we go this whole like freaking like filler in the middle of the movie about like him bringing strawberries to her and him peeing himself in an Iron Man suit and fighting War Machine. It turned so stupid. But the beginning and the end and the overall product I did like. I really liked the action, the visuals. Tony Stark always is fun to watch. And then the villain Whiplash was not only epic visually, he was just a great villain. And I really wish they would have put more depth into it, because he actually did film more scenes that went more depth to his character. But they were trying to be like a cliche superhero movie that they kind of kept it out a bit. But you can still see that in the movie, and it was super well done. It was very well done. And the movie overall, I thought was great. The final fight was good. The beginning fights, the car racing thing, oh my gosh, dude, it was done very well. I love this movie, and it's also it really is a childhood movie. It's one of those ones I watched as a kid a lot, so obviously that ranks a little higher. So great movie, but obviously had problems. Number 16, a lot of people respecting this to be lower, because I do hate on this quite a bit. but I'm going Captain America Winter Soldier. Now, when I say I think this is, I say multiple times this is overrated, and I think because people say it's like the greatest MCU movie of all time, I never saw it like that, but I don't want people to think I do not like this. It's like when I say Jordan's the GOAT by far. I'm not disrespecting LeBron. I respect LeBron's game. He's done so good as a player. What he has accomplished is no one's ever going to get to that number 2 spot or number 1 spot. But at the end of the day, calm the frick down. He's not going to be Michael Jordan. That's what I'm saying with this. It's a great movie. I love the stuff they did. I thought that I thought what they did with Winter Soldier was amazing. His arc and his acting and what they actually build with this friendship from 90 years ago was so well, I don't think it was 90, but they built it so well, and I thought the action was really well done. The movie turned into this more of like government conspiracy, and it drags out a little too much for me, and it kind of makes me want more of what they're going for, and I kind of lose my interest in the movie a couple times, like 3 times in the movie. But when you get to the end piece, it gets really good. It picks up again, and I really did love the Steve Rogers and Scarlett Johansson chemistry, Black Widow. So yeah, I thought this movie was really well done, but not the best of all time. Guys, relax. Number 15 might come to a shock, but I watched it one time and I loved it one time. And I know this a movie that's top 15 I've only watched one time, shouldn't beat it, but from what I remember, I really like this. And this is going Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I thought this movie was just such a well done movie. It built up villains, it built up emotional depth, it had great fight scenes, a great interesting main character, great visuals, and I thought overall it just had a theme, and most importantly, it was actually a unique superhero movie. It didn't come off as a cliche, and it also was really felt like it really felt like if Bruce Lee made a superhero movie, and that's something I actually always fantasized about, like Bruce Lee, because if you read more of his comics, there was Bruce Lee comics, by the way, I did read some. I know I'm the biggest nerd of all time. I make fun of people who read comics, but I read freaking Bruce Lee comics. Okay, it was one time, but Enter the Dragon and stuff like that, it really shows us really stuff with not only like the Chinese culture, but how that affects superheroes, martial arts, and everything was just super really interesting. And I feel like this movie actually got really close to that, and I really loved it. It had a new theme, it separated itself from the others, and that's why it's top 15. And I probably do need to rewatch it again now I'm thinking about it. Okay, at number 14, I'm going Spider-Man Far From Home. I thought this was another great movie. A lot of people do not like it. I thought it was done very well. I thought that the emotional depth and the comedy was actually blended pretty well. Not perfectly, but the depth of Tony Stark being gone and how that affects Spider-Man and how it affects his friends and how it affects everybody. And I thought the action was done very well. I thought the stories were really down, and Mysterio as a villain was amazing. Of how it gets into his head, how he doesn't know what reality is. It was such a cool concept for a villain, and I always loved Mysterio to begin with. I thought it was just very well done. So I thought the movie was just great. Now, yeah, I will admit the whole freaking another Tony Stark guy gets betrayed and he gets his heart broken. Now he's gonna rally against him. Like, how many times are you guys gonna do this? But overall, I like the movie, and it's a little overrated in my opinion, but I do understand the criticism to a degree. Number 14, this is one I just saw recently, is going to Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 3. Phenomenal movie. I loved it, and this really felt like just like people who were destined to be friends. They lost their memory, and now they're growing together. They're growing the chemistry they didn't know they have. And that concept, oh my god, I love it. I love that, and I actually hope they do that in Spider-Man, not in the 4th one, maybe the 5th one, but I thought it was such a cool concept. It was acted to perfection. The emotional stuff of Rocket and what they did at the end of the movie, and everything building up to the action, to the comedy, it was such a well done movie. It had a couple problems. There was a couple corny and little too over the top stuff, and not the necessary time. But overall, I really like the movie, and it's going in my top 15. And picking up with that, number 12 is going to the original Guardian of the Galaxy. I couldn't really take that with the original because I feel like the original was just a lot more fluent. It had a great story writing, it had great comedy, great action, it had great just, world building, and it was a really unique superhero movie. I thought it was done very well. It's not one I rewatch that often, but whenever I do watch it, I do love it. So that's going number 12, the OG Guardian of the Galaxy. But yeah, that We Are Groot stuff was a little too much in my opinion. I don't care what anyone says. And number 11, I'm going Black Panther from 2018. Great movie. the action, the story writing, the building of characters, and more importantly, the villain, Killmonger by Michael B. Jordan, was acted amazingly, had great writing, and when you get to the action around the end, the only thing I'll say about this movie that's a little lower is when you get to when Black Panther dies, right? It feels like the movie takes a big pause, and it's a little awkward pause, and then he comes back, and then everything starts picking up again. It feels like there's a big pause in there. It had to happen, but it felt like 20-30 minutes of filler, which was really a little. It really feels like, okay, kind of skipped when he gets back. Like, that's what it feels a little bit. But everything outside of that, I thought was a great movie. I love the fighting. I love the how it kind of shows you this culture, and how it kind of shows you different people and different backstories and backgrounds, and how it affects the past and the future and the present. I thought it was just a very well done movie. So let's go in my number 11. But now to my top 10 MCU movies. Now we're going to get to some of my favorites. And I think my 10 and my actual top 5 are, there's a big gap. So from here on to 6 and then 5 to 1, there's a pretty big gap. But coming at number 10, I'm going one of the most underrated MCU movies, I think. And it goes to Captain America First Avenger. A lot of people do not like this movie, and I absolutely adore it. I love the theme of this. First off, I love origin stories. It's a great origin story. They do it very well. They really show Aaron Rodgers. I call him Aaron Rodgers again.
What I'm saying is, I think when you think Captain America, you're always gonna think of Aaron Rodgers.
What? Aaron Rodgers? What? Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is gonna throw the shield at Red Skull. Yeah, right.
Aaron Rodgers.
Steve Rogers. They really show him at his skinny self, at his lower self, but you still see that confidence, and you see him grow, and when you see him become Captain America, and you see him trying to do what's right, and then you get to the end piece, and it's a little bit of a love story, and it's from the 40s. It's the World War II era, and that's what makes it separate. It feels separate from the others. It's not this huge alien stuff in space. No, it's just a simple 1940s story. And now there was a little bit of Red Skull stuff that was a little bit, I'm not saying this is realistic, but I'm just trying to say it had a theme, and I think it stuck true to his theme. Now when you get to the whole montages of him and stuff doing that stuff, it did feel like there was a big jump in the story, but I still feel like that stuff is a little overhated. I feel like that's the only excuse for people to put it lower. I'm like, okay, yeah, but you're ignoring a lot of stuff that outweighs that, at least to me. So yeah, I thought it was a great movie, but it's definitely not one of the greatest, but it's very underrated. Alright, coming to number 9, I'm going for Ragnarok. This is one where either you love it or hate it. I feel like there's really no in between here, because people say, oh my gosh, they make this movie is a big stupid joke, or some people say they love it. I loved it because I think they balanced the humor and the action seriousness perfectly. And I feel like what they did with the story writing, what they did visually, the only thing I do not like about this is only one thing, and it's what they did with Hook. Because Hook is not like Thor. You can't be this charismatic guy. He is the incredible Hook. You can't do that. So that's my only issue, but overall I thought it was very well done. And number 8, I'm going Spider-Man Homecoming. Love this one. It was a great Spider-Man movie. I love Tony Stark's role in this. I love the arc of Peter Parker of trying to be friendly neighborhood and trying to balance what it is to be a superhero, and him turning it down just to be that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man was so cool. I thought the side characters were actually really, really good, and like Ned and all the other ones, they were just very well done and very good movie. And it's just one of those movies that you watch, you just enjoy it. It's just simple enjoyment, simple entertainment. It's just one of those ones that's just like, you're good. You're not cinematic. It's just like a nice little, it's like a nice Pizza Hut cheese pizza. It's like, okay, this is not like freaking a 5-star, fancy food, but it's almost better than that in a way, because it's simple, it does its role, and it's just good. That's what Homecoming is. I gotta stop with these analogies. Let's just do the list. Alright, coming at 6, I'm going the original Iron Man, and wow, this movie was so good. It really just had a great story, great arcs, and the simpleness to this, and what they actually accomplished with this, and Tony Stark's role in this. It is just such a good, simple movie. It satisfies what you want from a superhero movie without going too over the top, and it's just an amazing classic, and I gotta give all the respect to it. That's going at number 6. But now on to my top 5. All these ones I love, and you guys can... The top 5 gets a little shaky for me, so you guys are probably going to get mad at me. But We're starting off with one that I know that make me a little mad, and I know it will. But number 5, I'm going Avengers Infinity War. I know. I got it. Don't kill me, please. Bro, I'm not going to sit here and defend myself where it's ranked it, because there's really nothing wrong with this movie. And the only reason it's lower is just because it has nothing to do with this movie. It has something to do with the ones ahead of it. So I'm not going to sit here and defend myself why it's low. I'm going to sit here and agree with what you guys think, because this movie is phenomenal. The story writing, all the universe coming together, Thanos as a villain, the final fight, the depth of them losing. It was a phenomenal movie. And why it's lower and why it's not like number 3 or number 1, it's because the one's ahead of him. So let's get to it. Number 4, I'm going Captain America Civil War. This movie, the characters and ideologies they shown between Iron Man and Tony Stark, they were both right and both wrong at the same time, and they show that visually and story writing, and it has great acting, great story building, all these characters and how they feel against each other and how they're teaming up. It was built up so well. And then you get to the final fight, and then you get to the one between Iron Man and Tony, and he finds out about his mother and father, and dude, this movie is so good. It is so good. Like, I adore it. So yeah, that's going number 4. Amazing movie. Phenomenal. On to my top 3. Number 3, I'm going Avengers Endgame. Now, this movie had everything from Infinity War, but better in my opinion. The only issue is I think they switched between the humor and stuff a little too much, and that would have held it back slightly. But the final fight is the greatest cinematic ending and the greatest cinematic moment we've ever seen in probably film history. And it is by far the greatest thing we've ever seen in superhero or comic history. It was so good that it's undescribable. There isn't a word made by God to put in my human mouth to describe the euphoric feeling you get from watching that ending. So that right there, it makes up for any argument you can say over Infinity War and Endgame. That's why it's number 3. Great movie. At number 2, I'm going Spider-Man No Way Home. A lot of hate going on this movie for no reason. This movie was freaking amazing. It had everything you wanted. It had the comedy, it had the action, it had the arcs, the story building. You get Tobey Maguire, you get all these guys, and I can't even go on about this movie or I'm gonna get too rallied up, literally. So I need to calm down. But this movie, I'll probably make a separate video about one time, and because this movie, people don't give enough for credit. It was not just a hype phase. Go rewatch it again and truly look at the story and the characters and the action. It was amazing and perfect, and the acting was one of the best we've seen in Marvel history. But my number 1 goes to, maybe you guys guessed it, maybe not, but it goes to the original Avengers. This was just a great movie, dude. It's the most nostalgic movie for me. This is the one I watched the most as a kid, and it has everything I love from the greater ones. This is the same thing I say about season 3 of Cobra Kai. It balances between the great action you get in the later ones, but it still holds that simple tone of Iron Man 1 and 4 and Captain America, the First Avenger. It really is, I think, just the founding holder, and I think it's just a heart beating inside the Marvel story. It's what holds it together. It keeps the blood flowing. That right there was everything balancing all the other movies together. You got all the phase 1, phase 2, and all that stuff right here. Yeah, all the other ones right here, and that's right in the middle. I think it's just perfect. I think it's peak. I think it's just a great story, great classic story, great writing, great villains, great characters coming together. Oh my gosh. Great movie. Anyway, there it is. All 35 movies. Maybe I'm regretting myself doing this because I just talked for 40 minutes, and I don't think I even understand one word I said. So if you guys understood one, thank you. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching this. If you guys stick to the end, comment penguin. And maybe you guys, I know you guys watched the whole thing, and you guys are as crazy as me, and you guys need therapy. We can go together. Alright, I gotta stop. But anyway, thanks for watching this, guys. More videos to come, more awesome videos to come, more Cobra Kai videos to come, and I'll see you guys next time. So farewell to my old channel. It's a new phase. Alright, I gotta go. Always remember to subscribe, extreme measures. Peace.